the new turret and an electronic cable. The turret is armed with a 105mm Cockerill 105 HP with a 12-round autoloader and a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun, with both thermal and day sights. The installation of the new turret reduces the tank's weight by 5 tons and the tank crew to 3 personnel. The prototype was converted at the John Cockerill facility in Auburn and underwent firing tests at the Suippes military base in March 2022. The Belgian Army also had the following variants: 36 Armored Recovery Vehicles, ARV-TRV, 17 Pioneer Tanks, Armored Engineers, 55 Leopard anti-aircraft tanks, withdrawn from service, 12 driving school tanks, 9 Legan AVLB, Armored Vehicle Launched Bridge. Belgium sold its last 50 Leopard 105B tanks to OIP Land Systems in 2014 for roughly €37,000 each. In January 2023, the government sought to buy these back to give to Ukraine. However, the purchase was delayed over a disagreement on price, with OIP wanting around €500,000 each to cover the cost to refurbish them to battle-ready condition. All 50 were subsequently purchased by Rheinmetall, with 30 to be refurbished and 20 used for spare parts. Canada, edit. As a replacement for the Centurion, Canada acquired 114 Leopard C1 tanks, equivalent to Leopard 103 with laser rangefinder, in 1978-79 for its land forces. Most of these tanks were stationed in West Germany during the Cold War, with a few retained at Canadian Forces Base Gagetown, New Brunswick for training. In 1976, prior to delivery of these new Leopards, the Canadian government leased 35 Leopard 102 tanks from the contractor in order to begin training crews from the 4 Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group, 4CMBG, based in West Germany. These tanks equipped the Royal Canadian Dragoons, RCD, that competed against other NATO tank crews and won the Canadian Army tank competition in 1977. While investigating the possibilities of increasing the Leopard's armor prior to a refit, the turret armor on close-up inspection was 1.5-inch and turret wall cast 0.75-inch steel. The belly armor was approximate 2.25-inch and cast frame steel 0.75-inch steel. Skirt covering treads, tracks, was 1-inch rubber knot steel. Additional armor was applied on the forward half of the skirt during the refit, as well as increased 0.6-inch steel on the upper hull sides and 1.1-inch steel on the upper glacis, although only a small handful of C1s received a complete refit. The refit included adding thermal night vision equipment. 5 or 6 Leopard C1 tanks had an extremely thick Mexas applique armor kit applied, made by German firm IBD Diesenroth Engineering. These tanks, designated Leopard C1 Mexas, served with Lord Strathcona's Horse, Royal Canadians, in the 1999 KFOR mission in Kosovo. They were later upgraded with the same sights and fire control system as the Leopard C2, see below. Starting in 1996, the 114 Leopard C1 tanks in service were due to be upgraded to the Leopard 105 standard, designated as the Leopard C2, at a cost of CA $139 million. The turrets of 123 surplus Leopard 105 tanks purchased from the German Defense Ministry were fitted into the existing hulls. 9 turrets were reserved for spare parts and training, and the German tank hulls sold back to the upgrade contractor. For the process, the original Leopard 103 turrets had their main armament removed first, then were removed from the original C1 hulls. The modified Leopard 105 turrets were then fitted onto the C1 hulls. The removed L7A3 105mm guns were refitted onto the new turrets. Due to the complexity of the upgrade process, of the 114 tanks, 66 tanks were successfully upgraded. The first updated Leopards, now named the Leopard C2, entered service in November 1999, at CFB Gagetown, New Brunswick. The Leopard C2's turret was modified according to the Canadian Army's request, with new radios being installed, and new stowage containers being fitted to the rear of the turret. Aside from the requested add-ons, the biggest update for the Canadian Leopard tank fleet was the implementation of the Atlas Electronic EMS-18 Fire Control System module, which featured a similar computerized setup as the C1's Subca FCS, a laser rangefinder, and thermal imager. 18 Leopard crew gunnery trainers were purchased at the same time. Canada also operates the Leopard 1-based Beaver AVLB and Taurus ARV, bought with the original Leopard C1, and the Badger AEV with a dozer blade and excavator bucket, which entered service in 1990. A number of the Canadian Leopard tanks were pulled out of service during the mid-2000s in anticipation of replacing them with the 8-wheeled mobile gun system. These plans were put on hold after U.S. experience revealed serious shortcomings related to stability and weight. Of the obsolescent tanks, 23 were sold to companies in North America, 4 put in museums or used as monuments, including 2 at the Bovington Tank Museum, and 21 used as hard targets on ranges. Canada sent a squadron of Lord Strathcona's Horse to Afghanistan in late 2006, equipped with 17 Leopard C2 tanks with the MEX's add-on armor, as well as 4 recovery vehicles and 4 engineering vehicles. The armored squadron was intended to provide convoy protection, supporting Canada's provincial reconstruction teams and other organizations equipped with lighter vehicles, and combat operations. The first tanks arrived in Kandahar in mid-October 2006. On the 2nd of December 2006, the Leopards stationed in Kandahar entered the field, marking the first time since the Korean War that a Canadian armored squadron had sent tanks into an active war zone. They fired their guns in combat for the first time in as many years the following day, in response to a Taliban rocket attack. The deployed tank squadron was in combat operations from late 2006 until July 2011. The first squadron deployed with C2 MEXs. In mid-July 2007, a thermal cover and a cooling unit with crew vests was added to the tanks. The tank squadron was augmented in mid-September 2007 with the 20 Leopard 2A6 MS with slat bar type armor. The Barracuda camouflage system was added in mid-2008. In late 2010, the tank squadron added 5 of the new Leopard 2A4 MS. The tank squadron operated with the 3 different Leopards until it was pulled from combat operations. The C2 MEXs with the mine plows, mine rollers and the dozers were used alongside the Leopard 2S, until a bracket was installed for the Leopard 2A6M to mount them. After an initial assessment of the performance of the Leopard C2 in Afghanistan, Canada decided to invest in Leopard 2 tanks. It was determined that the lack of adequate air conditioning, essential in the searing heat of Afghanistan, was degrading the tank crew's war-fighting ability. The Army later downplayed this factor, citing increased armor protection and the main gun armament as reasons for upgrading to the Leopard 2. After some public speculation, Canadian Defence Minister Honourable Gordon O'Connor clarified the situation in April 2007. To meet immediate needs in Afghanistan, 20 of the Bundeswehr's stock of Leopard 2A6s were upgraded to the 2A6M standard and loaned to Canada at no cost by the German government. 2 Leopard 2 Buffalo ARVs were acquired at the same time. These vehicles were shipped from Germany to Afghanistan. with the first arriving on the 16th of August, 2007. For the long term, Canada plans to replace the borrowed Leopard 2 tanks with a purchase of 100 surplus vehicles from the Netherlands, including 20 Leopard 2A 6MS for combat service, 40 Leopard 2A 4S for training, and 20 support vehicles, such as ARVs, bridge layers and AEVs. The older Leopard C2 tanks were considered completely obsolete by 2015. But specific plans for them have not yet been announced. Until deployment with the Canadian forces in Afghanistan, the Leopard 1C2 had never seen active combat. In February 2018, Canada attempted to sell the surplus Leopard 1C2 tanks to the Jordanian Armed Forces. In July, it was announced that the sale fell through and the Canadian Department of National Defence has yet to decide what to do with the surplus vehicles. Daniel Lebothilia, a spokesperson for the Canadian Department of National Defence, said the last option would be to destroy the tanks. As of November 2021, no buyer was found for the Canadian Army's Leopard 1C2 tanks. About 45 retired Canadian Army tanks will soon be used for target practice at the Cold Lake Air Weapons Range. A Vegreville, Alberta company, Quest Disposal and Recycling Incorporated, was contracted to repurpose them to be used for target practice at Cold Lake Air Weapons Range, and the tanks were at the company's site being processed in December 2021. Denmark, edit. In 1976, Denmark acquired 120 Leopard 1A3 tanks, which were designated Leopard 1DK. Delivery was completed in 1978. In 1992, Denmark acquired another 110 1A3 tanks, partly through Conventional Forces Europe Treaty AFV reduction requirements. These tanks were upgraded to Leopard 1A5DK, along with the first 120 Leopards. Being fitted with the welded turret of the Leopard 1A3, the Danish Leopard 1A5DK tanks were not identical to the German Leopard 1A5, which were fitted with the cast turrets. Denmark had 230 Leopard 1A5DKs in service from 1993, until their retirement and complete replacement by the Leopard 2A5DK tanks in 2005. These Leopards were involved in one of the most important engagements in modern Danish military history, which became known as Operation Blebank. Denmark was the only Scandinavian country to send a significant tank force to support their peacekeeping operations in Croatia and Bosnia. On the 29th of April, 1994, near the city of Tuzla, 7 Danish Leopard 1A5 tanks were involved in a skirmish between UNPROFOR's Nordic Battalion, Nordbat 2, and Bosnian Serb military forces from the EKOE Brigade. The tanks were sent out to relieve a Swedish manned observation post that had come under ambush fire by the Bosnian Serb forces. Upon the tanks' arrival at the observation post, they were shelled by mortar fire and anti-tank rockets, which led the UN-marked and white-painted Leopard 1A5 tanks to return fire. No casualties were suffered by Swedish observation post nor the Danish tank. Serbian casualties were estimated as high as 150 soldiers. This is believed to be the first hostile engagement involving the Leopard 1 tank. The Danish army had /has the following variants: 120 Leopard 1A3, 1976 to 1993, all upgraded into 1A5. 230 Leopard 1A5, 1993 to 2005, 120, from 1976, plus 110 new A5. 16 Berger ARV, 1993 to 2011, all upgraded into FFG Wisents, 10 ARV plus 6 AEV. 10 FFG Wisent ARV, 2011 present. 4 FFG Wisent AEV Mine Clearing Vehicle, 2011 present. 2 FFG Wisent AEV, 2011 present. 10 Bibber AVLB, 1994-2023. 6 Driving School Cabin, 1976. Denmark sold 100 of its last Leopard 105 DK tanks to FFG in Flensburg, Germany in 2010. In February 2023, Germany approved 178 Leopard 1 main battle tanks for export to Ukraine, and Denmark announced it would jointly purchase around 100 Leopard 105 main battle tanks with Germany and the Netherlands for Ukraine. 90 of the Danish Leopard tanks at FFG are expected to be part of this transfer. Greece, edit. Greece bought its first 104 Leopard 103 GR tanks during 1983-1984. They are actually Leopard 103s, but came with an EMS-12A3 FCS and some other modifications required by the Greek army at that time. During 1992, the Greek army received a batch of 75 Leopard 105 as offsets for the construction of 4 Mako 200 frigates. Some months later, Greece received another batch of 170 Leopard 1V and 2 Leopard 105 from the Royal Netherlands Army. The Leopard 1V is actually an 104 with an EMS-12A3 AFSL2 FCS. From 1998 until 2000, Greece bought 192 used Leopard 105s as offsets for the upgrade of the Greek F-4 aircraft in Germany in a symbolic price. In 2001, the Greek army decided to upgrade 104 Leopard 104 GR and 120 Leopard 1V to the A5 Plus version, costing $234 million. The program was cancelled because Greece received a batch of 150 Leopard 105s along with the newly built Leopard 2A6 Hell. As of 2011, Greece is the largest user of Leopard 1 tanks, having over 500 Leopard 105 GR MBTs as well as many ST, Bibber and Legan versions. Greece is negotiating with Germany to supply nearly 100 of their Leopard 105s to Ukraine in exchange for these being backfilled on a one-to-one basis with Italian Leopard 105 tanks purchased from Swiss company RUAG and refurbished and upgraded by Rheinmetall. Italy, edit. Italy had to replace an enormous number of M47 patterns, with over 2,000 received from US stocks, but unlike other NATO members did not instigate a national project to achieve this. Its army, not entirely satisfied by the M60 pattern, 300 delivered, of those 200 were produced by Otto Mellera, placed its first order for the Leopard 1 in 1970. 200 Leopard 101 and 69 Bergepanzer II were delivered between 1971 and 1972. The vehicles replaced the M47 in the Italian Army's Cavalry Brigade Pozzuolo del Friuli. A further 600 Leopard 102 and 67 Bergepanzer II were built in Italy by Otto Mellera with deliveries starting in 1975, with a second batch of 120 built by Otto Mellera between 1980 and 1983. All Italian-built Leopards were a 2S, but without stabilizers and skirts. The 201s originally bought from Germany were partially upgraded lately at this standard. 40 Pioneer Leopard, AEV, 9 school, 4 drivers, without armament, and 64 Bibber, AVLB, were ordered in 1985. 12 of the Pioneer Leopard were produced in Germany and 28 by Otto Mellera in Italy. All of the Bibber were assembled by Otto Mellera in Italy. By the end, Italy was the biggest customer of the Leopard outside Germany with 920 plus 250 special versions, the only one with a licensed production, and the only country that produced both the M60 and Leopard 1. The Leopard was the basis for Italian MBTs and heavy artillery systems, starting with Leone/Lion and the following of 40, leading to other developments like the Palmaria and automatic artillery systems, both on an F-40 hull. The experience made possible the development of the C-1 Air Riot, after the Italian Army decided in 1984 to have a new national tank, rather than buying 300 Leopard 2s. At the end of the Cold War, the Italian Army began an upgrade and a downsizing of its armored units. A number of Leopards were retired in 1991, along with its fleet of M60 tanks. In 1995, Italy bought 120 surplus A5 turrets from the Bundeswehr, which were mounted on the same number of reworked A2 hulls. These tanks took part in the various peacekeeping missions in the Balkans, never seeing action. The last A1 /A2 was retired in 2003, with the last A5 going in 2008, leaving the Air Riot as the sole tank in Italian service. The AEVs, ARVs and AVLBs have been reduced in number and some have been modified to work with the Air Riot. They are stated to serve for some more years, as no replacement has been selected yet. A deal to sell nearly 100 Leopard 1A5 tanks stored in Lenta to a South American country fell through in 2022. Netherlands, edit. The Royal Netherlands Army ordered a total 468 Leopard 1 tanks from the 4th production series, built between October 1969 and March 1972, as a partial replacement for the Centurion tank. The initial order for 415 vehicles was placed on the 27th of December 1968 but was soon expanded to include another 53 tanks and 30 armored recovery vehicles, subsequently increased to 51, following the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. Dutch tanks were built with participation from local industry, including components supplied by companies such as DAF. They were equipped with US radio sets using US-style antenna bases and a Dutch-designed smoke discharger system consisting of 6 launchers grouped into 3 pairs on either side of the turret. There were additional stowage boxes provided on the fenders around the hull and the FN mag was used as secondary armament instead of the MG3. At a later date, Dutch tanks were upgraded with a gun stabilization system from Honeywell and new optics for use with British-designed APDS ammunition. In 1987, all remaining Dutch Leopard 1s were upgraded to the Leopard 1V, verbeted or improved, standard, which involved the provision of the EMS-12A3 AFSL-2 fire control system built to Dutch specifications by Honeywell and Zeiss as well as the Space Turret Armor add-on package by Blom and Voss. The program was plagued by technical challenges with the new fire control system, which rendered a significant number of upgraded tanks inoperable for a period of time, and cost overruns. By early 1995, the Leopard 1V was phased out of Dutch service without a replacement, with most vehicles either donated to Greece or sold to Chile. Approximately 50 tanks were retained for various purposes, including to be used as monuments, museum pieces, targets for live weapons practice, driver training vehicles and other niche applications. Turkey, edit. The Turkish army upgraded its Leopard 1 tanks to a version called the Leopard 1T Vulcan. The modernization program included the serial production and integration of the Vulcan fire control system developed by Aselsan. The new indigenous system provides the capability of detecting the targets in daylight or at night in all weather conditions and combat environments. It significantly increases the first round hit probability on the move and also improve the usage life over 20 years. Turkey's other batch of Leo 1A3s are dubbed as Leo 1A3T1 and are actually 1A3A3s with EMS-12A3 fire control system. Ukraine, edit. Procurement problems, edit. At the outbreak of war, Rheinmetall sought to buy back 96 Leopard 105 IT tanks at the beginning of March 2022 from Swiss company RUAG, refurbish the tanks, and deliver them via a third country to Ukraine. Rheinmetall and RUAG signed a tentative purchase agreement for these tanks before a formal application for their sale and export was made with Swiss government authorities. Rheinmetall then requested an export permit for 88 Leopard 105 tanks to Ukraine in April 2022 along with 100 Marder IFVs it already had in its stocks. However, this was initially blocked by the Scholz government allegedly over concerns that the tanks could not easily be made battle-ready. A government source later revealed that the Chancellery was actually blocking Leopard tank transfers because it would constitute a departure from an informal NATO decision not to provide Western tanks at that time. Following the 20th of January 2023 meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, a decision was reached to provide Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. The Scholz government subsequently lifted its ban on export of Leopard tanks to Ukraine. On the 7th of February 2023, the German federal government approved the export of 178 Leopard 105 main battle tanks to Ukraine, which included 88 Leopard 105 Rheinmetall claimed to have, and 90 Leopard 105 DK available from FFG stocks. Germany, Denmark and the Netherlands subsequently issued a statement that the three countries would jointly finance the purchase of at least 100 Leopard 105 tanks. On the 13th of February, Rheinmetall and RUAG signed a more formal agreement for the purchase of the 96 Leopard 105 IT tanks stored in Italy, although this contract was also not formally.
Yes. Camcorder's out of power again. Need to charge it. It's 4 p.m. So I'd like to finish reading this because this Leopard 1 tanks is driving around in Ukraine in the war. And many of these old Leopard 1 main battle tanks will end their days on the battlefield in Ukraine in the metal pieces, blowing into pieces, but it's very hot, 30 degrees again. So I like to open my door and charge my camcorder. So I will take a break, charging my camcorder.